Hi everyone, I'm Dr.Animaction, and welcome to the first new video in my Cartoonical analysis series. Before we get going, if you love all things about 80s cartoons and all the great things they brought with them, be sure to like and subscribe. Now on to the topic at hand. I'd been working on this during my initial channel launch a few years ago, and decided that it was a good enough idea to bring it back for this newly relaunched effort. In this series, I'll be looking at multi-part, premiere, or special episodes from various 1980s cartoons, and doing a deep dive into everything that makes them tick. I'll start with the plot rundown and all the base info, then take a look at how they compare to other forms of media for the property, the science that shows up in the episodes, mistakes in animation, anything unintentionally funny or unintentionally deadly, all sorts of things. And then I'll give my thoughts and opinions for you to do with as you will. This is a trial run for a potential series, so let me know what you think, what you like, what you'd change, and we'll see how it goes. Thanks in advance for watching, and I hope you enjoy. So for this first episode, I want to take a look at the first release of my personal favorite property in all of pop culture, if not necessarily my favorite of all 80s cartoons. This is the 5-part miniseries The M.A.S.S Device from G.I.Joe, A Real American Hero. This series premiered in syndication from September 12th to the 16th of 1983. Produced by Sunbow Productions with support from Marvel Productions and animation by Toei Animation in Japan, the series was the animated introduction of the modern version of G.I.Joe, which had appeared as a toy line in supporting Marvel comic book the previous year. As such, the miniseries focused on the characters and vehicles introduced in that 1983 line of the toys and put them in a story in which they're called on to defend the world from the evil Cobra and their game-changing teleportation technology. The 5 episodes take the structure of the first episode introducing the device, its capabilities, and the 3 rare chemicals that power it. The following 3 episodes each focus on the Joes and Cobras challenging each other to collect these chemicals, Cobra to restock their diminishing supply, and G.I. Joe to power their own version of the device. The series culminates with the final confrontation as the Joes raid the Cobra base housing the device and save the day. You can watch it yourself on Hasbro's official G.I. Joe YouTube channel if you haven't already seen it. But how did the miniseries come together? Let's take a look. As I said a few seconds ago, this series focused on the characters and equipment released as a part of the 1983 toy line, with support from the older 1982 characters. So out of those, which ones appeared in the series? Most of them, actually. Out of the 29 characters released as figures to date, 26 had roles in this series, along with 15 of the 19 vehicles and pieces of equipment. There were only a handful of characters and a couple minor pieces of equipment missing. Let's take a look at what showed up and what didn't. So what's the cost of G.I. Joe's War on Cobra? Have you ever wondered how much cash the taxpayers shell out to have the world protected? Let's take a look. First, we'll run down the damage racked up over the 5 episodes. So to quantify that in terms of actual dollars, I looked at the closest real-world equivalents to each piece of equipment in 1980s money, like an F-14 in place of a Sky Striker, and used the best real cost estimates I could come up with. Where there wasn't a real-world equivalent, well, I guessed, based on how complicated the technology was comparatively to other tech of the time. That gives us a grand total of $317,482,325, with the Joe team picking up the tab on 63.3% of that amount. Makes you wonder where Cobra gets enough funding to lose over $116 million worth of equipment in a single operation, doesn't it? It's famously been said that war is hell, but we all know that for G.I. Joe and Cobra in the animated series, it was only heck at worst. There were never any casualties in the battles in this series. Or were there? Let's take a closer look and see. And now, because I'm just here to take the fun out of things, let's see how the science in the series holds up. The first thing we're going to look at is some rocket science. Now, I'm not a rocket scientist, but I have actually worked in the field of rocket science in the past as a mathematician. So if anyone questions my nerd credit, there you go. I have an undergraduate degree in applied math. But anyway, let's start this with an awesome example of rocket science.
Where he grips it. It's a simple question of weight ratios.
Okay, so the science presented some problems. Who cares though? That wasn't really the point of the show. But what else did the series do that was maybe a little weird or maybe even a little dumb? Well, here are a few things I noticed.
Eyes. Acknowledge Snake Eyes. Acknowledge.
Now we lack but two of the precious elements which will make us invincible.
They're over an hour ahead of us, Major Blood.
This will use up our last remaining bit of the third metallic element.
Moving on, I think we can all agree that the process of creating animation is hard, and it takes a lot of work. Sometimes things slip through the cracks, and here are a few of those that did. But what about those moments where the animators maybe pushed the limits with art or angles, or when things just lined up right and became a little too mature for the audience? Well, this series had a few, from overly sexualized to underdressed to fighting dirty to enforcing gender roles in their slave population, which is kind of a 2-for-1, by the way. Some of this stuff probably didn't need to be in a kid's show.
Of the male slaves. We are expected to serve their food.
So besides those not quite right moments in the animation, there are also a few lines in the writing that are at least a little chuckle-worthy. Here are the best ones that I found.
Hey, bacteria brain! Come down and let's discuss your future as a mental patient.
Wow, Duke. Just wow.
I'm gonna kick the mustard out of that crazy hot dog.
And again, Duke is just full of great zingers.
Brilliant commando work got 3 of you inside.
I love that line. Snake Eyes actually infiltrated, sure, but Scarlet came in by a loud and bright jetpack, and Stalker just kind of drove in and blew some stuff up.
I shall execute your leaders one at a time, every half hour on the hour.
No idea what to even say here. That's just plain wrong.
Premature panic is the sign of an immature mind.
And a bonus line that I actually love. Those are words to live by. Well, I started this analysis by talking about how well this series covered the toy line, so I'll end the analysis portion by going over all the missed opportunities in the series and the vehicles and equipment that appeared on screen, but never got a plastic version. There were actually quite a few, and several of them would have made awesome toys. I'm not going to go over any of them in depth, we'll just kind of rapid fire through here. So I pointed out several things wrong with this miniseries, but you know what? It doesn't matter. All that mattered was how engaging the story was, how cool the players were, and how much it spoke to our childhood selves. In that regard, I think the series did a great job. It gave us on-screen representations of almost all of the characters we'd come to know in the toy line up to that point, and did so in a way that didn't make it feel forced. The 3-ingredient formula gave the showrunners the opportunity to set the series in multiple environments to give all of the specialized characters a chance to shine with an actual purpose. Cobra seemed like a genuine threat throughout most of the series, and a real match for G.I.Joe, and it set the formula for the entire series with the early good guy losses and come-from-behind final victories. All in all, it was a well-done miniseries without too many obvious errors or issues, especially for a kid, and it worked so well that they essentially mirrored the format with the Revenge of Cobra miniseries the following year. I'd consider this one a must-watch of 80s animation. And that's pretty much how I imagine this series going. Is this sort of video interesting to all of you? What do you like? What do you hate? What should I do differently? Is there a specific series or story arc you'd like to see me do with this style? Let me know all of your thoughts in the comments below. Anyway, I'll be continuing to do one-off videos like this interspersed with my ongoing animated 80s, so make sure to check back for the latest episode of that later this week. Thanks for watching this video, and thanks in advance for any feedback you have to offer. Stay tuned, and stay tuned, as in cartoons. Later.